everybody, it's Mandy again, and I've come to read you a story here at Fylde Christian Service Church in St Anne's. This week's story is actually adapted from the Old Testament. It's about a young man called Ishmael. I suppose he was a boy really. And the story is found in Genesis, well, sort of, in Genesis 21. Ishmael knew that it was his own fault. He should have kept his big mouth shut, but he didn't. And now he and his mum were abandoned in the desert. He curled up in the shade of a desert bush and he cried. He didn't care that he was crying. He had every right to cry. If he hadn't been so angry, if he hadn't let his feelings get the better of him, he would still be at home in his father's camp. But now he and his mum were all alone in the middle of nowhere, and they were going to die. Everything had been fine until 2 years ago. Ishmael had been his dad's only child, the pride of the whole family. Sarah, his stepmother, had always been a bit cold towards him, but that didn't matter because Ishmael was Abraham's first son. That made him special. Then Isaac had been born, Sarah's child, her only child, her long-awaited child. Suddenly, Ishmael wasn't important anymore. Everyone wanted to see baby Isaac, to hold him, to pet him. The dream boy had arrived, and Ishmael's nightmare had begun. Sarah's coolness turned to hatred. Whatever Ishmael did was wrong. If he kept out of the way, he was hiding. If he helped, he was interfering. If he played with Isaac, he was being too rough. If he left him alone, he didn't care. He did his best to avoid Sarah, but it wasn't easy. She had become a celebrity. The old woman who had had a baby. Then came the night of the party. And what a party! There had never had a party like it for Ishmael. But this was for little Isaac. It was awful. Ishmael and his mum were the only people in the entire camp who were not invited. Ishmael was furious. He marched in, he pushed over the choice calf that was being roasted over hot coals and told his startled family exactly what he thought of them. Sarah was a cruel tyrant. Isaac was a spoilt brat. He knew he was being stupid. He knew he should stop and walk away. But it was all true, and it had to be said. Ishmael reminded them that Isaac wasn't the only one whom God had promised to bless. God had promised to bless him too. He was going to be the founder of a new nation as well. He too would have so many descendants that they couldn't be counted. An angel had said so to his mother before he was born. He reduced Isaac's party guests to shocked silence, except for Sarah. She screamed at Ishmael's dad, telling him to do something. In one final act of defiance, Ishmael spat at baby Isaac and left. At first light the next morning, Sarah watched smugly from the entrance of her tent, and as Ishmael and his mum were thrown out of the camp. His dad, Abraham, was deeply upset, and Ishmael desperately wished he could undo what he had done. Abraham gave them as much food and water as they could carry. He'd hugged Ishmael with tears rolling down his wrinkled cheeks and reminded him that he would still be the founder of a new nation as God had promised. Ishmael remembered that hug now as he hid from the sun his mouth parched, his tongue swollen. It wasn't going to happen. There would be no new nation. He and his mother had eaten all the food and drunk all the water. They'd walked for 3 days without eating or drinking anything. Ishmael had made a bow and some arrows from the branches of a desert tree. He'd shot at every bird that flew anywhere near them, but he missed them all. Oh, there must be water here somewhere, his mother had insisted. Otherwise the birds wouldn't be here. And here they are, look, here's the party. And there he is, knocking over the fatted calf as it was being roasted. Oh, I bet he wasn't very popular. Oh, dear me. Does look angry. The two of them had chased after every mirage caused by the burning sun on the hot desert floor. Each time, the promised water had vanished as they approached. Now he had no energy left. There were plenty of mirages, but he'd run out of hope. Ishmael wanted to be strong, but he'd failed. He was the one who crumpled first. His mum had dragged him over the stony ground to the baking shade of the nearest bush. He licked the salty tears from his cheeks and hands. He could see his mum, Hagar, sitting straight and proud, staring out across the taunting desert, scattered with pools of shimmering reflected light. What if one of them really was water? Oh, it was too late. Ishmael watched as his mother's head wilted. Her shoulders began to shudder. She was crying too. He longed for his dad. His dad, though old and strong, his dad would have rescued them. But his dad had chosen Isaac above Ishmael and Sarah above Hagar. Another large tear crawled down Ishmael's dirty face. Hagar suddenly sat bolt upright. What was it? Ishmael propped himself up on his elbows. She was listening to something. Could it be the angel? The last time the angel spoke to her, before he was born, she had run away from Abraham because of Sarah. Could it be that angel again? It was a wild hope. Hagar stood up. She turned and walked towards Ishmael. There was a light in her eyes and a brightness in her face. Ishmael couldn't help hoping. She bent down and stretched out a hand. Come on, Ishmael, love, you can do it. She pulled him to his feet. My angel has come back, she explained. God heard you crying. Everything's going to be all right. She dragged him out of the shade and the sun towards the biggest of the desert mirages. Ishmael was too weak to say anything. He hoped his mother was right. He feared that the mirage promised water would change into stony desert at any moment. His mum was still speaking about the angel. They were getting closer. The mirage was still there. Splash! Real water! Splash! God had heard him crying. Splash! God still loved him. Splash, splash. God kept his promise. Ishmael and Hagar fell on their faces in the pool, sucking, slurping, bathing cracked lips and swollen tongues. Ishmael was going to found a new nation. It was true. And there he is, look, drinking the water out of that pool in the middle of the desert. Wow. That was a good story, wasn't it? All about listening for an angel. I wonder if you've ever heard an angel. I don't know if I have. I have often heard what I thought was God talking, and what he said turned out to be absolutely true. But was that God? Was it an angel? I don't know. Maybe you'll tell me one day. Enjoy the song. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Our God is a great big God, and He holds is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and He holds us in His hand.